Welcome to our podcast, where we discuss mindful consumption, personal style, and the quest for living a more intentional life. I'm Alyssa, and I'm a sustainable stylist.
I'm Christina, a shopaholic turned minimalist-ish.
And I'm Signe, a color consultant and slow fashion style coach.
Together, we will unpack the nuances of what it really means to be a conscious consumer and find more joy in what we have right now. So grab your tea, your coffee, whatever your favorite drink of choice is, and join us in the conversation. Let's go.
Woo, yay!
I found a really cool article in Nylon. We're going to link it in the show notes. And it's essentially about how the culture or the trend of like core trends. So we're going to put this in the show notes, but when we're talking about core trends, it's like apostrophe core. So we're talking about things like cottage core, Barbie core, normcore. So it's a very, very micro trend that is usually identified more by specific pieces of clothing. So like when you think cottagecore, you think the peasant dresses and all that kind of things. So they're micro trends, they're very niche, they're very specific, and they are very, very fast moving. Like they're here 1 minute and then they're gone. They're less of a representation of like the current subculture or anything like that. And this article kind of questions, like, are these crazy micro trends, these core trends, are they ruining personal style? Like, have we lost our sense of identity? Have we lost, like, what are they wreaking havoc on our personal style? And I just thought it was really cool because it touches on a lot of points, like the influence of social media, how a lot of people just dress for the algorithm, or, and using outfit repeating is still a little bit not, I think we live in an echo chamber, so it's kind of neat and a good reminder to be like, no, like there are still fast moving trends. Outfit repeating isn't as universally loved maybe as we believe, and how is that impacting style in general? So I don't know, I know both of you read the article. I'd love to know what you thought and just go from there. Tell me, what do you think of core trends? Do you think they're ruining personal style? Have you tried a core trend?
I was really attracted to Normcore once, but
I think I am Normcore.
Yeah.
Me too.
I think I still have the board on it on Pinterest. I don't know if I deleted it, but I was very attracted to that whole thing once. But in this period of life, not so much.
Hold on,
and
explain Normcore. What is the aesthetic?
It's very, like, to me, like what I immediately think about is like Birkenstocks and a blazer. That's like Normcore to me, or like a pair of baggy jeans and a sweat, like a oversized sweater and a pair of oversized jeans and then a pair of Birkenstocks. Like that's Normcore to me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, which I think is still very much like I definitely see that trend today still. But yeah, I think we kind of touched on the styling rules and styling do's and don'ts that are kind of dominating social media right now, which I think somewhere in the article someone mentioned that there's so many people telling you what to buy and how to look and how to wear it and where to go, that it's very easy to forget yourself in all of that. And I think it's you can see it on social, that like that's definitely how I feel sometimes. Like a lot of the styling do's and don'ts and the styling tips and stuff that you see out there are great, but then at the same time, sometimes you will look at something and you'll be like, okay, but then what can I wear? And like, I don't even know how to style that item anymore because I'm being influenced and being told how to wear it. And it's like, you completely lose yourself somewhere along the way. And I even like take myself and like, sometimes I kind of feel like you're not up to date or you're not modern because you're not following that kind of, because you're just re-wearing all of your older pieces. Like you're not following the times, or like you're feeling kind of untrendy, or like, I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah.
I have two thoughts about this. One, I think that this is a thing that's very niche to the internet. I've rarely seen well, maybe normcore. I think a lot of us are normcore anyway, like Adam Sandler, Jerry Seinfeld aesthetic sometimes. But like I what's the core, right? Like ballet core, full tilt ballet core with like the Miu Miu flats and
Yes.
the what is it, like leg warmers and the bun and ribbons and all that stuff. I haven't seen a head to toe look of that in real life ever. Now, maybe I don't get out of the house much, but this to me is such a I think it's like a thing that is I don't want to say segregated, but just like that's specialized to the internet. Like it's something that you only see online, and in real life, I don't know if it necessarily translates. Um, and the thing, but I in this in terms of your question regarding personal style, like I think it I think it is kind of ruining personal style in the sense of like it's not even like like how you talked about, it's not even like a subculture. Like in this in if you're like into goth or you have that kind of aesthetic, punk even, like that's associated with like a movement and music and aesthetic, and there's just like so many more aspects to it that I feel like the core aesthetics don't really have. Like there's like no bands associated with, you know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to
Yeah.
say? Like really only works for views almost.
Yes. And that was a big piece in the article. It was like a lot of these trends and a lot of the purchases behind it is literally you're dressing to satisfy an algorithm because a certain look is trending one week and you get a lot of views, you get a lot of likes, and then you move on to the next.
Like if you're participating in that and that's like maybe that's like your role on social media, or if you're an influencer in that way, it's just like the consumption and the in and out of the clothes aside, like how exhausting is that? And I think the thing with personal style that we always go back to is like personal style is a reflection of yourself and like what you want to say without saying anything. And if you're zipping in and out of these cores, who are you? Like what do you know yourself? Um Now I guess you could argue that like maybe part of your personality is to and part of like what makes you who you are is staying on trend and being on top of that, because I think there is um there's like status and interest associated with that. Like I think we chase trends so that people know that we're quote unquote with it, but then they always change what it is. And now what you're with isn't it.
Yeah.
And what that's a Simpsons quote anyway.
Nice.
And now what's it is weird and scary to me. So it's just yeah, I think it's interesting. I think like if trend chasing is part of like what makes you you, then sure. But for me personally, I'm exhausted just thinking about it.
Yeah, it is exhausting. And it's like also it's wreaking havoc, I think, on self-esteem, and also obviously just the fashion industry of like I think Sina and I were talking about this before we started recording, and it was like a lot of times these items are so costumey or like Christina, to your point, like unwearable out on the street, or like but also they are so identifiable to one specific moment in time, not even a specific moment in time, but like literally a specific week that you're not gonna you're not gonna wear it again. Like it's not even part of your style. It becomes, I think, a costume. And I just wonder, with this like TikTok generation, or how how are they gonna find their style? Like I'm kind of sad. like uh, like what would it look like? And I'm trying to think back, like when we were young, where did we get our fashion inspiration from? It was from like a magazine, right? Or
a TV show. Like I
yeah,
watched The
TV
Hills
show.
like in the
Oh my
in
God,
high school. Like
yes.
Lauren Conrad was like my biggest style icon at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think there was an interesting piece in the article that talked about, our girl, Shakayla Forbes Bell, who we've mentioned before. I think we talked about her in episode 7, which I will link to in the notes, but like, or which we will link to in the notes, was the increased social media usage not only has like given us sort of an attention deficit with just how we consume content, but also with our fashion, like how, like it's really playing into the narrative of you must have this new thing next week, you cannot wear the same thing twice. um it's just you have to, this pressure to look a certain way. And I thought that was interesting. Like, do you find our attention spans are getting so much shorter,
Oh yeah.
right?
Like
Definitely, yeah.
yeah, it's interesting when I'm on TikTok, like if they haven't gotten to the point the first 3 seconds I'm out, I'm swiping. I
Mm.
find that very interesting, but the behavior, like if I'm on YouTube,
Yes.
my attention span is different because I think my brain is primed for that absorbing that long form content, but when I'm on TikTok, I am like a goldfish, like memory of a goldfish, attention span is like not there. Um and Yeah, I just like speaking to trends, like remember last year or 2 years ago that House of Sunny dress? Have you seen that? It's like that it was like that green dress with
Oh,
swirls all over it and everybody was
yes.
just after that. And as you
Yes.
say, that's like that when you buy into that trend, I think we all tell ourselves we like it and then and we tell ourselves because we're marketed to this way that we are going to be current and
Mm-hmm.
this is a symbol of me being in the know and on
Right.
top of these things. But then as you say 2 years later, if I wore that dress today, a lot of me wants to say I'm going to wear it because I like it, but then I have this little voice in my head that's like, "Oh, but everyone's going to know that you're frozen in 2021
Right.
wearing
Mm.
that." Or like if you
Interesting.
buy like an one of the it bags of the
Yes.
season, like the trending bags, like, "Oh, that's so 2020 of you," or whatever. And it's there is that little chatter that I find. So it's hard to break free of that. As much as we want to say the contrary that like, oh, I'm not into trends and I don't let trends dictate my style, but I think
Yes.
Mm.
they seep in there.
Yeah.
Fully.
I think that's a place where like the psychology of fashion goes into it again because like what we have this need to feel like we belong to certain groups as human beings, and
Mhm.
I think doing that through fashion is just inevitable, and that's where it becomes hard to kind of break free from that mindset of buying into trends even if you don't want to, because you still want to belong to that group that you
Mhm.
Yeah.
identify yourself with.
Yep. And think of it this way, if you see a trend, like, have you ever seen a trend that when you first saw it, you just absolutely hate it? You had this like visceral
Mm.
gut reaction
Mm.
of that is terrible. I hate it. And then 6 months later, it's in your closet
Mm.
Mm.
because you're like, oh, I kind of like this.
Mm.
Now.
And it's because we've seen it and it's being repeated over and over again and it grows on you. And there's psychology to show that I think if you're served something visually or however you're consuming it, I think it's the average of 7 to 14 times, you're more likely to buy it and to purchase it because like your brain is saying, like, I'm seeing this over and over again, I guess it's good. Like the quote unquote growing on you is because it's just been shown to you that much more, or like the trend is increasing in popularity and you're seeing it more. So it's like this subliminal, actually, you do really like me
Mm.
Mm. Yeah,
messaging.
it's like in the subconscious at that point, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah.
But I feel like we're almost back at where we started. I feel like when I started like doing YouTube and Instagram and stuff, it was like to remove myself from a way of consuming
Mm-hmm.
which I think was reflected even back then in social media somehow. Like
Yeah.
Alyssa and I just talked about that, where, if the dress is always, or if the dress has already been shown on Instagram, I don't need to wear it again because it's
Mm-hmm.
already been out there. And I feel like we're kind of back at where we started now, which is, it's kind of sad. Like I know it's a new generation and stuff, and our
Mm-hmm.
generation we might have learned more, but it's still, yeah, I think it's sad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like, have either of you been? I mean, I don't. I'm not gonna lie. Like, a lot of these micro trends mentioned in the article, I don't even recognize them. Like, I recognize Regency core and tennis core, and like, but there were a couple that are mentioned that I fully like poof, went right over my head.
Mm.
Have either of you been inspired by these micro trends, and were you able to introduce them into your closet in a way that was like not wasteful, like, oh, let me just play around with this and see what it feels like, or like, do none of these interest you at all?
Ballet flats. But like, why? How is a ballet flat part of ballet core? Like
Core,
ballet flats have been a thing since I
fully.
was in high school. Where, oh God, do you remember those days when just like the stinky, smelly feet after just wearing those little plastic
Yeah.
ballet flats? But it's, I was wearing those when I was in high school in 2005. So it's just like, yeah, so yeah. And I guess normcore, I have a pair of New Balance sneakers now. So I mean, Adam Sandler got in.
Yeah.
Mm.
Adam Sandler.
But yeah,
I
I
love that.
like I don't worry that much about trends. Like definitely sometime again, and it may be more like um they might creep up on me like in like unconsciously, that I might follow a few trends without even thinking about it, because
Mm-hmm.
I, like you said, Christina, um just to keep my wardrobe looking current. And I do like to be playful with my style, but I think I'm a lot less concerned about what's trendy these days as I
Mm-hmm.
were like even just a few years back. But
Mhm.
I think there are definitely like ways you can inject trends into your wardrobe in a mindful way. I feel like that's something you talk a lot about on your channel, Alyssa, like how to kind of incorporate or interpret trends into your, in a specific way so that you're not being wasteful with it.
Yeah, I think it's important to take a trend, um, because those trends will never stop. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and think the Devil Wears Prada, like cerulean blue or
Yes.
whatever
Yeah.
scene. It's like that's how it works. And but I think you can take pieces from trends that you decide you like, and then there's ways to make it timeless for you. I talk about that a lot on my channels. It's like because I do buy into trends. Like right now I'm into baggy jeans. I like them. I'm looking at maxi skirts. Like it's growing on me, but for me, from a consumption and financial standpoint, um, I can't I can't afford to have it be like a in and out like that. I don't want it to be just like a blip in my style. I want to wear it next summer, and maybe when the silhouette gets slimmer, I'm still going to hold on to my baggy Limp Biscuit Jenko jean vibe. So, but I think, and that's where knowing yourself and knowing your style is so important. And I don't know if buying into the core aesthetic, as we're talking about, I don't think it gives you an opportunity to do that.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really good
Mm.
point.
Yeah.
Because you're just constantly chasing, so you really don't even get a moment to appreciate what you like, your own style and what you've cultivated and how you want to.
And the whole core thing, it's like a head to toe style. So it's very costumey. And um, that to me is like, I don't see the person. I don't see you. I see someone from the Black Swan. Like I don't see the person. And I think it's because of that head to toe vibe. Um, yeah, so that takes me out of the person.
Yeah. I often find, like, when it comes to trends that are so specific. I think that's what rubs me the wrong way about these, is that they are so specific and so identifiable. Like when I was in Toronto this week, Christina, I saw so many people wearing white ankle socks and loafers with a short skirt or with like those baggy pants. And I'm like, this was cute maybe like 2 years ago when people just started doing this. And now like it's everywhere. And I feel like the ubiquity of a trend that is so specific that you can't even put your own spin on it. I'm just, it I don't know if this is too judgy, but it's like, where do you get to inject the creativity in that? Like, if you're copying such a specific thing, and we kind of talked about this in the other episode, like, how do you bring in your own personality? Like, yes, it's cool to inject the novelty and whatever, but how do you keep yourself? And I think that's what irks me about these core trends in particular, is their specificity. Like, there is no room for personal creativity. Like, it's the black chunky loafer with the white sock. Like those are your options. It's like, where's the fun?
Yeah.
I
I,
don't
I think
know.
it's a little like I have ballet core in my head still. Like
Yeah.
to me it's a bit mindless. Um just like yeah, you copy and paste the core aesthetic onto yourself and yeah. Um it just to me it's just like what I see communicated is the value that just I have to be on top of these trends and I almost feel anxious thinking about that. Like that's so much pressure to have to keep up with that and to just like always be in the know and there's just like I think part of like knowing your personal style and getting dressed is like being there's some critical thought to that I think in the sense of putting things together, deciding what feels like yourself. Um and you're doing some inner work with that and to just like copy and paste and wear it for 2 weeks and then move on to the next thing is just it's almost like you're using it as a form of distraction to not get to know yourself.
Oof.
Mm,
Love that. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I wonder, I have a question because I'm not super active on TikTok. Working on it. Um, but I wonder from like a Gen Z perspective, because they're the ones who are really affected, I think, and
Mm.
participating, like the biggest participants of these core trends.
Mhm.
And I don't know this generation, like, is it just influencers who are participating in the speed and the full head to tonus of these, like, and they're the ones who are really keeping up, or is it like anyone who has a TikTok account and like they're just cool and stylish and they just want to be whatever and they throw up their outfit and that's the end? Like, do you guys know, like, is that what's the extent? Because I remember like when blogging started, like a blogger would be the one who like can't wear the same thing twice, and then that kind of slowly infiltrated into everyday people as people started building their Instagram accounts, and it was like, sure, it's a personal account, but I still can't be seen
Mhm.
wearing the same thing. So I'm curious, is this the same thing? Is it the same thing just on a different platform and at a way faster pace because it's being fueled by a completely different algorithm? And also, like, you wonder, oh my god, like, our fashion, like, did the ultra fast fashion brands come into play because of the algorithm, like because of this
Mm,
whole thing? Like, sorry, that was like five
yeah.
questions in one. I'm sorry.
No, that's yeah, some good points that you have there. Yeah, I feel like TikTok almost is the fast fashion social media kind of platform. Like I
Mm.
feel like you have Instagram and YouTube, which is more slow, like like I know Instagram is following and TikTok like trails as well, but like I feel like definitely YouTube is more slow, and I feel like TikTok is the fast fashion platform, like the and also the fast content kind of platform. So I definitely think that it probably, like, I've not done the research, but that's definitely my
Mhm.
my theory is that that's definitely how it's all connected, like the
Yeah.
Shein hauls and everything, and and then maybe also the fact that people want to like a lot of people like being an influencer in general has become a thing. Like it's a you know an industry. It's a you know, maybe a lot of people want to be influencers, so there are also a lot of influencers now. So maybe that's also kind of, I don't
That's an
know.
interesting point.
Yep. Yeah, because YouTube is more long form. You can absorb it. Even on Instagram, it's a static photo. You can take the time to look at it. But on TikTok, if you're not hooked in that first 1 second, and so like when I'm in the middle of scrolling, I'll stop to look if I see like a head to toe ballerina or a head to toe dark academia cottage girl. You know, it's striking. The visual is very impactful. Um, so that catches you.
Do you think it's a lot of like, do you think some of these core trends are born out of just a necessity for shock value at this point? Because a lot of them aren't even born of the runways. Like a lot of them are completely disassociated from what we're seeing as like, you know, the annual or the quarterly trends that we're seeing. Like they're just not even
Like clickbait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
It's
so.
wild.
I think so.
Wild.
And I mean, there are like communities and niches around these aesthetics. So I'm not, you know, like the dark academia trend and all of these things. Like it does gather a certain amount of people together and create a common interest. And I think that's amazing. But I think like what here we're talking about is how it's a chameleon. Like if there's this pressure to, oh, I finally settled into this aesthetic, and now 10 minutes later it's dated and over, and now I got to move on to this one. So like the whole point, the whole insidious thing about trends is that they're just designed to make us feel outdated, make us feel inadequate, and then get our money to solve that problem. um you could look at it that way, because if like whenever you know, if you feel outdated, it's like it's a negative feeling. It's not, I don't say to myself, I want to refresh my wardrobe. I say, oh, this is looking old and tired. I feel outdated. Then I'll go see how I can refresh my wardrobe. And that can be dictated by trends. Like we're not immune to that. So um but I think a way to push back against that is to know when something's for you and when something isn't.
Yeah, you're right. It kind of all comes down to like the whole, like the more you know your personal style slash yourself, the easier it is to eliminate the noise.
Yeah.
But I like how you touch on again that, you know, that there might be like different communities within the different trends, so like it brings people together. And I think that's why it seems so hard to break out of this cycle, because again, we want to feel connected in those groups. It's like, how do we then do that? But I feel like, you know, using what you have, like we have a community of our own, like, or I think we have, us three here, we have like a lot of common followers, and I feel like that's another form of community, like slow fashion and connecting this way.
Yeah, we love you guys. Thanks for being
Yeah.
So much. Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder too, like again, like we already talked about this a little, like that format of exploration. Like I think it would be neat to figure out how to make even some of the more kind of costumey or shock value trends, they are also an opportunity for style exploration. Like maybe you pull one or two things. Like I wouldn't have, like I love the idea of tennis core. I love a good tennis skirt. Are you kidding me? Like I love it. I actually only wanted to play tennis as a child because of the uniform. Like so that's kind of like cool. And it's kind of a neat opportunity to inject it into your personal style, or at least maybe explore, or you know, that kind of thing. Um, Without just, you have to do it, you've got to do it in a mindful way, and it's really parsing out, do I like this just because it's been around forever, or because it's cool now? Like I still have a tennis skirt on my list, you know.
Oh my God, add it. And yeah, that's the thing. Like, I don't want to shit all over trends and like
No.
demonize this at all, but
No.
it's like I think the
Don't do it for
key
the
is
algorithm.
No.
yeah,
Right? Yeah.
exactly. Like who are you doing it for? And
Yeah.
Mm.
um like again going back to personal style, it's like how much do you know yourself? Obviously experimentation is key to evolution, and you don't want to be a static, like, we don't, if you love fashion and love getting dressed and style and all that stuff, like you're gonna trends are gonna find their way in there. But like to me a tennis skirt is, sure, there's tennis core where you're like head to toe and like,
Yeah.
the
I'm not gonna walk
sweatbands and
around with
like
like my sweatbands on my wrist.
yeah. So but a tennis skirt in itself to me is a fairly timeless thing. No? Like it's a classic to me, it's something that's a little bit more classic. It's just like, is it having a moment right now? Sure. But if you know yourself and know your style and practice re-wearing and shopping your own closet, like maybe in a couple years you'll rediscover it and wear it again.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. I often buy into a trend like when it's over. If I do buy into a trend
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Very
it's like
late to
it's
the
over.
game.
Yeah, super late. Like it's over and I'm like, okay, I still
Mhm.
like it. Like let's go.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I say, and I would just want to say, I really like that because I think it's at some level a bit more mindful. Like you're not just buying into it, like because
As soon
it's
as it pops up.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I mean, I'm curious, like, what do you think about like I'm actually doing research for my fall or summer anti-haul video, summer trends, like so trends that I don't think I'll be buying, or either because I don't like them or because I already own it. And it's like a lot of, I would say, quote unquote classic timeless pieces are trends, like vests,
Fully.
long skirts, satin skirts. Like, how is that a trend? I just don't, that's one thing, is that we're labeling things as quote unquote trendy, and it's just like, what do you mean? This has been around forever. Diane Keaton has been wearing vests since the
Yes.
70s. Like I don't know. Like
100%. I've often thought of that. I think I did a video like, like trends that are classics that are disguised as trends. Like it's
Mhm.
like you're saying, like there's so many. I guess you can always find an element of something
Mm.
timeless in every trend because there's nothing new on the internet or just in general. Like
Mhm.
it's just a reinterpretation of our current moment and how it's being
Mm.
worn and interpreted.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's a really good question, Christina.
Yeah, I think you touched on the fact that, Alyssa, you talk about sometimes like pulling the outfit apart and breaking it into the style elements, and I feel like that is something that you could really like focus on in terms of trends, because like you just said, it's often more about the styling of certain pieces, like the vest, for example, or the waistcoats. Okay, so now you wear them with jeans and a pair of ballet flats, and then that's a cute look. Whereas like in the 90s or whenever, or when they first came around, that you would wear them a different way. So it's just about much about like figuring out how to
Restyle.
style those pieces today. And that's why, like, for me, if I'm ever looking at trends, especially something like that, I will look at it, I will go thrifting, because it's, chances of that being a trend that's already been here in some form,
Mm-hmm.
the chances are very high for that. So, and that's, a bit more of a mindful way to inject a bit of more of a trendy piece into your wardrobe. I'm not saying
Yeah.
it's doable every time, but it's definitely like worth
Yep.
considering.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's also the question of like a trend to someone can be a classic to someone else.
Mm.
Mhm. One thing I just have been thinking of, I think for a long time, even up until like maybe today in this conversation, I always looked at trends as like a bad thing, and um, like, oh, like you're a sheep if you like can't you have I would say this to myself, like can't you have like an independent thought of your own, in the sense of like, why is there all this pressure all the time to like want to keep up with them and feeling that way. But I think, like how we talked about, there's other avenues to want to feel current and modern, which trends do dictate, and that's never really going to go away. So um but I don't think you need to be like anti-trend all the time.
Yeah.
um And I like how you talked about like there's other avenues in the sense of like you can thrift it, you can DIY it, and you can add that thing in to be a classic for yourself within your style.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because sometimes I just feel like being anti-trend feels just to be anti it all the time. It just feels a little pick me girl, like, oh, like not like other girls kind of thing. And it's just like sometimes it's okay to like what's
happening,
mainstream,
what other
and
people
current.
like it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It's almost like what Sina was saying about that sense of belonging, sense of camaraderie. Like it brings people together, and that's
good.
Yeah, it is good.
Yeah.
It's like finding the balance. I feel like the common theme in a lot of what we talk about is like finding the balance and also knowing yourself and knowing your personal style. Those two things seem to be really, really integral when it comes to keeping out noise and making sure that our consumption is mindful and healthy and not detrimental to ourselves or the planet.
Yeah.
There we go. We've solved it. The end.
Yes, the key too, as you say, is being the planet too, because I think that's easy to forget.
Yeah.
If we're moving in and out of trends so often, especially in this core niche, it's like how disposable that stuff is. And I think that's a lot of, part of the conversation and why it's such a big problem is because of the in and out revolving door nature of the trends. So there is a lot to be criticized when it comes to trends, but all I was saying earlier is that it's okay to like them if you do.
Totally. 100%. That's that exploration piece and that fun piece. Yeah. Yeah. Balance.
We love it. Harder to achieve than we think, though.
Fully.
Really.
Fully. And I think it's
balance
okay to make
and
mistakes.
nuance is probably like the key.
Yeah. And I also think it's like giving ourselves grace. Like maybe you buy something and you don't like it 6 months later. Like it happens, like every purchase can't be perfect.
This is going to be on YouTube, so feel free to leave us your thoughts in the comments.
Yeah. Yes.
Forgot about that.
Yeah.
See our faces. We'll have higher quality video for you guys next time. And my background, my recycling bin.
Oh, I think it's
Jeff's
great.
Office.
I think it's great. Look, you can see my light here.
Sina's always got the aesthetic down.
Yes.
She always has that figured out.
No, it's my office.
It's so nice.
So pretty. Cool. Yeah.
Okay, guys.
Great.
Good stuff. Good chat. Love it.
Bye.
Woo.
Ciao.
Thank you so much for joining in our conversation this week. If you're enjoying the show, we'd love it if you subscribe to the podcast on Spotify and Apple and leave us a rating and review. It's one of the best ways to support the Sustain This podcast at zero cost to you.
We're also a community-led podcast, so if you have any questions for us, topic requests, or even guests you want to hear from, please send us a DM on Instagram at sustainthis_podcast. We read all of our comments and look forward to hearing from you.
We hope you join us again next Tuesday, where we'll talk about so much more than clothes. Ciao!